You should get a little notification.
Yeah, is that good?
Okay. Now, what are you laughing about over there? I'm preparing myself.
I wish we recorded it before this.
Oh, it's fine. Anyways, hey guys, welcome to Castle's Corner. I'm Coach Castle, and today we're joined by one of my, I suppose you could say, longtime clients nowadays. It's been almost 4 months total, I think, but we're doing a 90-day recap. Took a little bit to get around with a 90-day recap. But I guess let's just go ahead and get into it. Just real simple. Why don't you get started with what you were expecting when you started with me? Um, Kind of what your goals were initially, and then how we went about getting them. I suppose we'll start with a big, broad brush. Oh, and of course, I'm sorry, introduce yourself as well.
Sounds good. Thank you for having me here again. My name is Marie Aspling, and for those of you who are new to me, I've been in the health and wellness field for almost 20 years, working as a trainer and massage therapist. I met Castle in October last year, so it's been about 5 months. I spotted him in the park. I really appreciated how he was working with his clients. I was at a point in my life where I wanted to change things up. I felt I had plateaued. I wanted another set of eyes, another brain to train me and see what I was capable of doing. So I basically said, I want to achieve better strength. I also wanted to start a running program because I have a past knee injury that I really wanted to overcome and work through and fix so that I could run longer distances and be pain-free. So that's how it started. Expectation-wise, I honestly did not know what to expect. I remember one goal was to be more confident and be able to do chin-ups and pull-ups and also the running. I would like to run pain-free, say 3 to 5 miles. That was basically my goals. And little did I know how much further I would actually be in only 90 days. But I went all in. I will say that you did the 90-day program, a very comprehensive plan, both for my strength component and also the running component, which I followed basically to a T. And I've been just blown away with how much I've learned, the results I've seen. So, for example, strength wise, I think right before I left 2 weeks ago, I think I did 23 chin ups. Granted, I didn't do them in a row, like I jumped down, one more, and so forth, but 23, and I did not know how to do one before. And the 5 mile run program was completed on the day, pain-free, which is huge for me. And then we'll get into obviously all the different aspects of what I've learned. But the gains, I've gained 9 pounds of muscle tissue in 90 days, which I did not think was possible. So I'm really excited. I've changed obviously aesthetically and physically, but also the internal transformation has probably been even more powerful for me, and it's translated into other areas of my life.
Well, before we get into the physical stuff, because that's all kind of easy and boring, most people have heard that. A lot of people don't hear about the mental side of the coaching.
Mhm.
Again, unless people like work with me directly, they just don't understand what a very unique style of coaching that I have and why I'm able to do this style of coaching. So one of the things I mentioned briefly in many videos over, and I've written about extensively, is you can't take a one look approach. Meaning, if you're a doctor, you're going to look at it as pushing pills or rehab. If you're a personal trainer, you're going to push it as exercise. If you're a chiropractor, you're going to say they need chiropractic adjustments. If you're an acupuncturist, you're going to say something. If you're a hooky vooky voodoo guy, you're going to say chakras are unaligned and there's a demon in your closet. I mean, everybody's going to look at it a different way. I look at it from a first principle basis from all aspects, everything from the biomechanical to the biochemical, the hormonal, literally every aspect I look at it from and I break it down. And that's how I create plans to help people. And not only that, I focus on efficiency. So
Mhm.
efficiency meaning we do the most important things first, which are going to lead to the most efficient gains, leading into the next things, which are the next most efficient, etc. And of course, doing everything in an efficient way, which also includes educating you as you do it. And one of the big things you're probably really going to enjoy speaking about, because you're probably good enough to teach somebody now, is skill acquisition, how you acquire skills rapidly and easily. So, anyways, that's a lot though, but that's how I break your stuff down simply. But how does the coaching look from your side? I know it doesn't seem quite that complex, but there's
Oh,
a lot going on.
it actually it actually does seem that complex. And I think that can be quite overwhelming for some people. I think it also comes back to what we have been trained and taught in society or in school and in education, that it's so different. That is your superpower. You are widely talented. You have so many skills. You're looking at fitness and health in a multifaceted way that I appreciate. I have my medical background. I am a biochemist. I am in the fitness field, yet you greatly impress me by your knowledge and how you methodically implement everything. So in the beginning, I have had those thoughts. I'm like, what is he talking about? How does this make sense? And we were laughing in the beginning, but there was something about you that made me instantly trust you. You can always back it up with facts. You can
Mhm.
always back it up with knowledge. And not that I need all that all the time, but I knew you had an answer if I had a question. So basically, to summarize, there's a method to your madness, right? Like it may seem like this is crazy, and I'll be very honest, sometimes I'm like, this makes no sense, like he is crazy, right? And I would tell you, I'm like, kind of in my own way, I'm like, this doesn't make any sense, I don't know why I'm doing it, and I got frustrated or whatever, but I didn't give up. I never said I won't do it. There wasn't a single thing that I wouldn't try. There were things that I had silly fears. My body didn't know how to do. I didn't have the fascial patterns. I didn't have the movement patterns because I had kind of dissected my movement. I'd broken it up instead of focusing on that integration and the connection in my body. So that was a huge learning curve for me. So that's one of the gains I've felt. Now I can utilize my body in a much more effective way. I'm producing so much more power and strength. I have zero overuse injuries, which I really want to underline, because a lot of times when you start a program of any training kind, you usually run into overuse injuries. And I hear that because I have clients myself, and often they develop injuries because they're going about it in a wrong way. And I've done this now for what, 110 days, maybe a little bit more, every single day almost, with a few days off, and I have only seen gains.
Mhm.
That in itself is a huge testament to your training style. So my advice for anyone who's listening is, even I, as a professional in this field, had my doubts. I had some questions and I wasn't sure, but I said, I'm going to apply myself. And now, as I followed your system, I took your advice, I followed it to T, and here I am gaining my 9 pounds of muscle, zero injuries, leaner body composition, so many more skills, so much more understanding, which then leads to also the mental component, and not to underestimate the power of confidence. When you build an individual from within, both with knowledge and skills, you're transforming that person. And that's what you've done with me. You've helped me become a new version of myself, a much better version. And I'm excited now because I know we kind of laid the groundwork, we laid the foundation, and if we accomplished that much in 90 days, I am so thrilled to go into another 90 days, because now we have done that kind of foundational work. And I can only imagine that we're going to see even more progress in the next 90 days with all the skills I have. So the mental and the emotional, I think I've gained a lot more. I think you use the term weak-minded, like you want to help people become strong-minded and having the right mindset.
Anti-fragile. I
Exactly.
say
And also
anti-fragile with a positive
anti-fragile,
mindset. Yep.
and realize what you're capable of. And
Mhm.
one thing that I look back, and I've been keeping, notes and so forth throughout this program. And one thing I've noticed is how much more I've been capable of doing, even on the days like this morning, we had a session. I was tired. I did double workout yesterday, right? I did my arms, I did my run, and we'll get into the running, the more specifics about it. But I'm sore. I still show up and I still have a good workout. In the past, that soreness would have had me modify in a way where I would have lowered the standards for the workout. With you, I've learned that I can push and I can still produce. It's a matter of the programming, which muscle groups we work, how we work. And I think that's for the strength component and the running component. The one thing that I have learned the most from you is the variety that's needed. That you have to expose your body to different stimulation, different weights, different load, different speed, all these components within each variable, if that makes sense.
Now, real quick, just because you know this one by like the back of your hand because you've been through it so many times now. Why don't you walk the audience through one of the times where you had let's just say trouble doing something, and I knew you could do it. It's one of those things where I look at you and I know you're capable of doing it. So I'll demonstrate the movement. I'm like, I want you to do this, and then you look at me like I have three heads for some reason, and I'm like, don't worry, it's gonna be easy. So then we have the steps. Now, in the beginning, you didn't know what these steps were, but eventually I educated you how I go about implementing these steps and then how you implement them yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So it goes hand in hand with skill learning. You'll get to it in a second, but kind of how you need to take little tiny breaks, how you have to understand things take time, etc. But why don't you just break down the steps when I show you something and you're like, this guy is crazy, and then you're doing it 5 minutes later. So how does that happen?
How does it happen? I
Yeah.
think you're the person to ask how it happens. I can only testify or say that it does work, and it does not make sense in that moment. Full transparency, like it does not make sense what you're trying to do. And I challenge you and I give you the look and then I still do it. But it's like the steps, and this is your superpower of you have the ability to know exactly how to get someone from this place to that place and breaking it down. And for me, it doesn't necessarily make sense until after. But then I have that moment of like, oh my God, I did it.
No, we've been through this. We've been through this. Everything from jumping, one-legged jumping, box jumps, handstands,
Handstands was
um,
definitely one thing. And
inverted push-ups. I mean, the list goes on. Weighted jump rope, all kinds of stuff. Rolls. I mean, whatever you name it. But why don't we give a personal example? One I know you just went through this one, so it's a good one. You use this method either unconsciously or consciously. I'm pretty sure you use this method anyways. Correct me if I'm wrong. But when you were doing your 100 burpees the other day, you must have broken that down. And at some point or another, you broke it down to make it manageable mentally, right?
yes, yes.
So
That
how'd
was
that go?
a fun test or homework that I got.
That was
So
fun. That
I
was
had
fun.
the assignment, for those of you who are listening, I had the assignment by Castle to do 100 burpees. And that was the only time I got a little arrogant, actually. So the night before, usually I'm like, I can't do that. And he calmly knows that I can do it. So he has this confidence that I can always get things done. And I'm usually the one hesitating. In this case, it was opposite because he said, do 100 burpees in 15 minutes. And I was like, of course I can do that. That's silly,
Ridiculous. Of course I can.
ridiculous. I'm
You're too
like,
silly. What do I need 15 minutes for?
and,
That's what you said.
and I had to eat that the next day. And I had to eat that for the next 3 days. I'm just recovering right now, 4 days later. So that morning, so it's a 2-point burpee with a knee tuck, I should actually say. So it's a different, that's the burpee I was going to do. But I had to break it down. So to Castle's point, I had to come up with a plan before I started because I know if I don't have a plan, it's much easier to give up. And I always break it down into small steps. And that's the power of just one more, or 5 more. And then you do 5, 20 times. It's much easier than saying I'm going to do 100. So I made a plan to do 10 in a row, break, and do that 5 times. And then I knew I was halfway. Halfway sounds really good. Then I broke it down. I was tired, so I'd already made the plan to do 5 in a row because anyone can do 5, but then you do that 10 times. So it was hard. That's
But
all
you
I
took
can
it
say.
in, you took it in pieces, and then you kind of reached the point of no return. You're like, I'm not going back
Yeah.
now.
About 75, I
Mhm.
was about my heart was coming out of my throat and I had to swallow my words. I was like, okay, well, I was arrogant going into this. I thought this was going to be easy. And I was like, there's no effing way I'm going to log on to our session and tell him I did not complete. So that's why my mind, I just told myself, there's no way I have to do it. Like I cannot even admit to him that I'm not doing 100. So I completed, I turned on the camera and I was dead.
But
It was,
to but just to a different point, by the way, and you already know this, but had you called me and told me you'd done 65, what would my response have been? Probably a giggle and oh, you'll get it next time,
yeah,
something
you'd
along
be
those
like,
lines.
good try, you'll get it next time. Not a,
No big deal.
what your words would actually be? Your words would have been, no big deal.
Yeah, no big deal.
No big deal. That's usually what you say. And I have to say, you have an incredible way to make someone feel really good about themselves,
I thought you
but
were gonna say angry.
not enabling. So that's the skill you have. There's a fine line between pushing someone and still holding them accountable and then give them some slack, right? If the person doesn't reach the ultimate goal, you still say, good job. Like,
Mhm.
that's awesome. Next time you'll get it. So you instill confidence. And I've watched you now for so many months, and I see the effect it has on me because it makes me want to try harder. And you still hold me to certain levels. So you're not going to baby me in any way, but you also don't make me feel bad if I can't do it. I don't know how to better, maybe I'm not describing that
Well, let's
perfectly.
take it back just to make the point about skill learning, for example. This is a biggie that you used to do all the time, and you have finally, I think, finally eased back on doing this. Is I would have you once again attempt a movement, and you'd be like, I should be able to do this. And then you'd be unable to do it, you'd freeze up, and you'd start beating yourself up.
Mhm.
So then what we would do is, let's just say we didn't manage to complete the movement that day. To me, I don't care at all. It doesn't matter to me in the slightest that we didn't. Why? Because you tried, number one, and just trying means you got some portion of the movement correct, just because you tried, which means you're already winning. And then I would always have you try in a very particular way so that you would integrate the movements neurologically, and then we would piece them together so you had at least a basic understanding of the movement. And then my big thing, and this is what people don't understand, is you don't learn skills right now unless you've already had previous skills which translate to that one and it can be rapidly learned. So body movements requiring proprioception and things that you haven't done with your fascia neurology before and stuff, it takes time to learn. And when I say time, I mean you need to go home and sleep and wake up, and then the
Right.
next day you'll be 30% better just by going to sleep. And then when you practice the movement again the next day, which goes back to consistency, just a couple minutes of quality practice, you'll be a lot better. And then I won't see you for a week, and then I'll see you again a week later, and suddenly you can do the movement with no trouble.
So that is such a good point, and that was something I had written down actually as a part of this review was just what you said. That I've learned that just attempting and doing partial moves the way you do them, I want to stress that because you have a method to it, right? It programs, it does the fascial patterns and then the neuromuscular connections. And I've literally walked away thinking, how can this possibly get me closer to doing this exercise, right? And just like you said, by sleeping, by going home, by not even doing it for another week or two sometimes, you then revisit. And I'm thinking in my world, oh, he must have forgotten. We're not going to do that again. No, 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 no. We're doing it again. And then he's like, well, today you can do it. And you say it with such a like, kind of like, of course you're going to be able to do it. So then I first, for a split moment, I'm like, there's no way I'm going to be able to do this. We
I
haven't even
haven't practiced.
it. We haven't done it. And then I go to do it. And guess what? you're right. And I keep saying that, you're right, you're right. So there's not many times you're not right. I don't think actually once I've had you not be right.
There's probably
Um,
been a couple in there. Who
but
knows?
I put down a few things that I really think is important for anyone who's listening and is going through, any type of training to really think about it. I just want to share what my experience has been, but breaking it down into the running component and the strength component, the running, number one, being pain-free. I think that applies to everyone because most people have some sort of pain, whether it's neck, back, knee, hip, ankle, whatever it is. And we often stop moving because we have a pain. In my case, I didn't stop moving. I had to work around my pain. It only was pain when I was running. It's called a runner's knee. And I literally remember the first time we started, we had to go back to zero for me because we had to relearn my running form, my technique, my breathing, which I will get into more in detail. But for me, it was starting over. And I remember the first was like 0.75 miles or 1 mile, and the knee pain kicked in. And that day I was like, there's no way he's going to be able to help me. I've had this for 20 years. Not that I didn't believe in you. I just believed I had to live with pain for the rest of my life. Fast forward, I'm now basically pain-free. I ran 5 miles. I did not feel my knee, which is huge. But the comfort and the trust I've developed in your way of training leaves me so much less stressed. Like when I can't do something, I still go home saying, I will be able to do this at some point because I trust you. I know that you're taking me to that goal. I just don't always understand the process. I'm trying to learn that too, but right now I'm not quite there. So being pain-free, the different types of running has been huge for me. You have taught and introduced the 5-to-5 breathing, 4-to-4, 3-to-3, 3-to-2, 2-to-1, and inhaling nose, exhaling mouth, and we can go into that. But the breath was a game changer. That was actually what helped me fascially, with oxygen, obviously, endurance, stamina, strength. Just the simple, if I would say one thing, probably one of the biggest takeaways from your program is the action of bracing while
Mhm.
lifting weights. It
Correctly, too. Correctly.
it has protected me. It has made me lift heavier. I've doubled my weights, both in biceps and triceps and, chest decline or whatever. All these exercises, I've almost doubled my weights because we have done different types of strength training, right? But the bracing, getting in and out of an exercise, has protected me, made me stronger. And that's one skill that has
Mhm.
led to so many benefits.
Now, real quick, just on the bracing aspect, that's also going to speak to intensity because you can't generate maximum intensity without bracing because of a couple reasons. Plus, you can't safely exercise because of all the momentum and movement and everything else. Now, you were actually really locked up. You only had about 30% range of motion in your diaphragm when we started, as a matter of fact. I told you already, I thought it was real funny. A couple of things when we started, I just found particularly amusing, just because it's you. But anyway, this besides the point. It was kind of funny in the beginning, like your inability to jump made me laugh a little bit, things like that.
It's okay. I've
Or
had many
sprinting,
humbling
sprinting.
experiences. We can talk about that.
Your sprinting ability was also fun.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh
Oh my
yeah,
goodness. I
yeah, yeah.
felt like
But
we
well,
did that.
that's intensity too. So what surprised you? Because I know the intensity level surprised you. Maybe you even forgotten, but the first few workouts we did, I want to say maybe the first 2 weeks, we always do very easy, very light. You learn the movements, neuromuscularly. We focus on learning the biomechanics, the muscle groups, those kinds of things. But like week 3 or 4, we started actually upping the intensity. And I remember you just kept looking over at me like, "Am I done? Am I done yet? Am I done yet? When do I stop? Can I stop?" I'm like, "No,
I
you
know.
keep going, you know?"
It got so intense, and that's a great word, intensity. That's one thing that I have applied more than ever in my life, I think, in this program. And clearly, it's brought me the best results. Intensity. And also, we laugh every session because I ask the question, do I need to warm up? Do I need to warm up? This is basically what we do every session because I'm so used to having to warm up and having to do certain things, and it's still ingrained in me. And I get the look, no, just do what I tell
Well,
you
it
to do.
depends what we're doing. It does depend what we're doing.
Yeah, of course we do. So yes, not to have misunderstandings here. Of course, appropriate warm up, but not in the sense that I used to think of warm ups. Okay. But I am surprised how quickly you can get into high intensity workouts because in the past I would not have.
Well, that
And
just speaks to how long the workout is as well, because when you're with me, it's not like all we do is exercise. We exercise, we do breath work, we do learning, educational things, we do stretching, flexibility, fascia work, we do mobility patterns, all kinds of stuff. The workout is, I mean, at the very most, maybe 15 minutes out of our time together. And that's it. In and out, done and quick. Now I know when you do the workouts without me, most people have a little bit of difficulty generating that kind of intensity without me there, kind of breathing down the neck a little bit, keeping them on the grindstone. But there's a couple of things I've introduced to you that when I'm not around, you can use. For example, pairing your workouts with Tabata music, things like that, where you have the alternating 30, 15, or whatever the time limit is, but you have fun music. Just things like that to keep your workouts short and sweet. But just to speak on short, sweet workouts, two things are necessary: correct knowledge, so you can apply correct technique and form, and intensity. You got to have those two, or you can't have short, sweet workouts. Now, you guys have heard me ad nauseum speak about how my workouts are only 15 minutes a day. It's kind of a waste of time if you do more than that, and I really believe that. Like you can't do more than a 15-minute workout of its maximum intensity, and you're training individual muscle groups unless you're doing a whole lot of muscle groups in one day. I only do 5 or 6 a day, 3 day split. And that's how you're trained as well. And all of my clients, again, we might have an hour session together, but the workout is 15 minutes. The warm up is 5 minutes. We'll do 10 minutes of breath work. We'll do a 10-minute lecture. We'll do mobility for 10 minutes. Like, this is how you should be structuring your exercise. Too many people focus, and you hear me like ad nauseum kind of bitch about this, but too many people focus exclusively on one thing and they do it poorly. I want to build muscle, that's all they care about. I want to lose fat, that's all they care about. I want to be flexible, that's all they care about. I want to be a good bodybuilder, soccer player, power lifter, etc. That means you don't care about your future. That means you don't care about your health. That means you're ignoring 80% of your body that needs to be addressed. And if you address that part of your body, you would actually be better in your chosen sport that you're trying to get better at. And you hear me talk about this all the time. I just wish people would get that in their heads a little bit.
it's like something that you can talk about all you want. They have to experience it. You
Yeah,
have to have the experience. And that's when I think more people need to just go all in and try something and then speak on it or then assess. But you're so right. In fitness, we think of very singular results like muscle strength or cardio. But that doesn't mean that you're overall healthy. It doesn't mean that you're overall functional. And it doesn't necessarily lead to all the other benefits that come with a program that's so well rounded like this. And I don't say that lightly. I want anyone who listens, like, I hold certain standards and I have been in this field, right? And I've studied a lot in training, anatomy, physiology, but I've never come across someone who holds such comprehensive knowledge in all the areas that can apply it in the way that you can.
it's a
And
lot of fun. I just want to point that out. It's a lot of
it
fun. This is why I encourage people to learn. The more you learn, the more fun you get to have.
fun.
Seriously.
But I will say you keep it fun. And to your point with the music, there's something about I have not once not enjoyed the workouts. And even when I can have a session with you, I still do it on my own. So there's some, but not as good. Like there's something about having you there, something about you, sequencing the workout, you thinking, you doing that work instead. And I just kind of have to put my body through the work. But there's something to it because we're doing the same muscle groups, but they're widely different. And all
Mm,
the fascial training. And also the other thing that has been kind of a breakthrough for me is the tendon health. I
mm.
lacked tendon health. I didn't have agility, which then was why I couldn't jump as well. And you were kind of thrown off. You're like, are you joking with me? Because I was fit.
I thought you were
I
fucking
looked
with me.
like
Yeah.
I was in shape, and in many ways I was in shape, but in that aspect I was not in shape. So I've learned so many things that I was imbalanced. And now I have developed that, and I've learned the difference between tendons and muscles and really how it applies in movement. And it's just been a wonderful, incredible journey. And I'm very, very excited to continue and see where I will be in another 3 months and even after this whole year.
Well,
Because
let's wrap this up real quick. Why don't you wrap it up with a funny story, something that you would, well, maybe not a funny story, but maybe something that really surprised you about the program or working with me or something like that. I don't know, something interesting. Because there's a whole bunch to choose from, I'm
so
sure.
many. But I will say the one at the tracks. I will
Which
say
one?
the shoulders.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, go
Yeah.
ahead.
So this was
Yeah.
the beginning or middle of my running. So I think we were running a couple of miles. We went to the tracks.
Like 3 or 4,
Kind
something.
of, yeah, I think like 8 laps, 12 laps, so like anywhere from 2 to 3 miles. And I was working on speed and form,
Mhm.
primarily form. But then, so I did 4 laps. I think I did 1 mile. And, he kind of like waves me over and says, "Hey, I want you to focus on this one thing." And I was like, "Okay, whatever. Like, tell me." He's like, "You're just not gonna think it's going to help, but just trust me. Just do this one thing." And I'm like, "Okay." And I'm thinking, lift your knees higher, kick back more, increase your stride, thinking legs because I'm running, right? And then you say, rotate your shoulders more. And for a moment, I was like, this is fucking crazy.
He's crazy.
It's crazy. Like, shoulder, what do you mean? And you're like, do this, rotate your shoulders. And I was like, okay. But at that point, you had already gained my trust. Like, I already trusted you. So I was like, okay, put my headphones in, and I took off and I rotated my shoulders as fast as I possibly could. And then I did, I think, 1 or 2 laps, came back, and literally I was tracking my time on my phone, and I increased my speed with 3 minutes per mile.
With no
Simply
extra effort. No extra
by
effort.
no extra effort. I was not more winded, but somehow this movement translated down there.
The
And
fascia line across your, we won't bore people with it, but
and
yeah.
that day I think that was the turning point when I was like, I don't care what he says, I'm just gonna do it.
Well, you should still think critically. I mean, come on.
Well, I do, but let me tell you, it takes a lot for me to not trust what you say. So anyway, so I think we can leave with that. It's a good story.
Yeah, I actually gotta get up now. I got another
Yeah.
client at the moment, actually. But thanks so much for doing this, and I'll be seeing you soon. And everybody will have links in the description below for her, for me, for other things. You know how it all works out, everybody. And lots of new fun stuff to come to YouTube. Just so you guys know, I know it's been about a month since I uploaded, and that's because I have been planning as usual. So I'm going to be introducing a whole new style of videos to you guys coming soon. And everybody, thanks for tuning in. And just a
Thank you for having
reminder, it's a little tiny thing for you, but it's a really big thing. And it's the only way that YouTube picks me up is to like, comment, and subscribe and share. So if you can, go ahead and do it, guys. And everybody, stay fit. Think about your health from a multifaceted angle. And everybody, be healthy.